a stunning new report about Donald Trump's authoritarian assault on American cities. The Washington Post reporting on plans from the Pentagon to create a, quote, domestic civil disturbance quick reaction force in cities facing protests or other unrest. According to the Post, who viewed this plan, if adopted, it would require 600 troops to be ready round the clock to deploy in as little as 1 hour. This as members of the National Guard report to Washington, D.C. to facilitate Trump's authoritarian takeover of our capital city. Attorney General Pam Bondi meeting today with D.C.'s mayor as she assumes control of the D.C. police for at least the next 30 days. Meanwhile, actual residents of D.C. who only have a single non-voting representative in Congress have been out in the streets protesting this takeover.
The whole idea that there is some kind of a crisis of disorder in D.C. is a made-up, phony story to distract attention from deteriorating economy, from the ICE raids, which horrify even people who wanted action on immigration, and of course from the Epstein files. I think this administration would like to take over not only D.C., but any state or jurisdiction that doesn't completely bend the knee.
The conservative-leaning Wall Street Journal is even calling Trump's latest escalation, quote, his boldest move to date to expand the use of military power on U.S. soil. As the AP reports, Trump's targeting of D.C. and his rhetoric around it echoes a long and ugly history of racism towards majority black cities in America. Lawmakers and experts are sounding the alarm about both the authoritarianism and the racial undertones of Trump's latest actions.
He's doing the dictator playbook again, just like he did in L.A.
He does this with black mayors.
Yes.
Whether it's Baltimore, L.A., New York.
It is the reincarnation of George Wallace, of Huey Long, of the disgusting policies of the past.
He really enjoys using U.S. military force against American civilians on American soil and wants any excuse to do it anywhere he can.
This is part of the very dangerous slide towards authoritarianism.
It's not a slide. We might be there. Joining me now is Rick Wilson, co-founder of the Lincoln Project, and Joyce Vance, former federal prosecutor and law professor at the University of Alabama. Rick, I'll start with you. Clearly, this is an authoritarian move by the President of the United States. But from your perspective, is this just another power grab from Trump, or is this just a distraction from other things that are wrong in the administration? Which do you think is the primary motivation here?
You know, Michael Wolff and others have reported in the last few days, Donald Trump kept saying, I want something big. I want something big. I need a distraction. And this is a pretty big distraction. I believe that Donald Trump both loves authoritarianism, loves the use of the military against American citizens, and needs a distraction. But this has a side benefit to reassemble some of the cohesiveness of the Republican base that has been shattered by Epstein, because it's not all of them, but a meaningful fraction of his base voters will be happy to watch video of young black men being arrested and chained hand and foot in the streets. That is what Trump's feral sense of his own base will lead him to do. And again, it's not every Republican in the country, but there are a lot of them in his base who have been very disappointed about the Epstein matter, and this is a way for him to bring them back home.
Joyce, I want to play some sound from Maddow last night, just talking about Trump's authoritarianism, and get your thoughts on the other side.
He wants U.S. military force deployed on U.S. soil, facing inward, as a show of force to the American people about what he and the government can do to you. And we, clearly, are now in the part of the attempted authoritarian takeover where our authoritarian leader just starts trying to turn our own military to face us, the people of this country.
Joyce, I read your Substack article, which was very informative about what the laws are at play here. So tell us a little bit about a very important ruling that's going to happen this week that could have a huge impact on the ability of Donald Trump to do the kinds of things that he did in L.A. And what he's attempting to do right now in Washington, D.C.
Right. It's a complicated issue because what Trump is doing in the District of Columbia depends on special circumstances there. his ability as president to take control of the police force, the control he already has over the National Guard. If he'd like to go into other states, he faces that same problem he faced in Los Angeles, which is the Posse Comitatus Act, the prohibition on the use of the military for domestic law enforcement. And that's what Rachel's talking about when she says turning the military inward, right? We're talking about Donald Trump saying to Americans through the creation of this proposed rapid response force, through any sort of deployment of the military, he's saying to American citizens, I can bring you to heel. I can make you behave if you step out of line. It's threat. It's intimidation. It's very clear what he's doing here. In California, there's a trial. I don't know that we'll get a ruling this week, Jason, but the ultimate issue there is whether Trump crossed the line in Los Angeles and used military folks who were deployed there, the National Guard folks, for improper purposes under Posse Comitatus.
Rick, you know, this authoritarianism is taking the form of the military. It's taken a form of threats against media companies. It's taken a form of threats against universities. But I want to talk a little bit about something that we used to all share and more or less agree on, which is Trump's interference with the Smithsonian. We are now in a situation where it looks like the White House is about to vet Smithsonian museums to fit Trump's historical vision. I, as a college professor and someone who enjoyed many opportunities to go see free museums when I was a kid in Washington, D.C., am disturbed by this, not just for what it means now, but what it means down the road. Talk just a little bit about the danger of a president who has the time to start monkeying around with what we have in national museums that tell our nation's history.
Authoritarians rely on rewriting history in their image. They rely on reshaping what were common facts among everyone into a narrow cast version of themselves. This would be enormously familiar to anyone in North Korea. This would be familiar to anyone in communist China. This is the same sort of revisionist history where Donald Trump is going to go in, and I won't doubt that by the time he's done, you know, there will be no reference to any African American in the Smithsonian who's accomplished anything in this country. This is a through line, again, that pleases a part of his base that are the people who are addicted to the culture war outrage all the time. They're addicted to the constant idea that there's this woke conspiracy trying to oppress, you know, the long put upon white male. This is a transparent and shallow attempt at this, but it is exactly out of the dictator's playbook. It whitewashes history. It erases history. It makes history into something that is an ideological moment that is reshaped by the desires of one man. It's sick and it's wrong, but it's very much on brand for Trump's authoritarian wannabe status.
Joyce, I want to move back to the sort of city at large as opposed to just its museums. We're going to have 30 days of the president of the United States or whoever happens to be under him controlling the police in the city. OK, fine. What happens after the 30 days? Does that mean that these troops will now leave? Does that mean that, the city at that point will sue and tell them they have to go? We don't have enough room or space for them. What could potentially happen after these 30 days? Or could this be a situation where the president just keeps extending this out and out and out and out and out as a test case for what he might do somewhere else?
So the D.C. Code home rule gives Trump 30 days. And after that, if he wants to continue with this sort of expanded control of law enforcement in the city, he needs permission from Congress. I'm not certain about very many things in Congress these days, but I feel pretty good that Democrats could mount a filibuster to keep that sort of a measure from passing. So I think it's very unlikely he'll get that. And the question becomes, what does he do at the end of the 30 days? You know, maybe Rick is right and he's had his big distraction and Epstein is no longer on people's minds and he doesn't need to go forward. But if he needs it, this is a president who has used power in unprecedented ways, who has reread our laws and sort of tortured them into a shape that I think the people who passed them did not intend. So the question will become, will he push the issue and try to keep control based on these utterly bogus claims of rampant crime, which, you know, we all know wrong. Statistics don't bear it out. DOJ numbers say he's wrong, but he may well push past 30 days.